Yes, as you know, I was born in Tallinn, and when the Russians were coming in 1944, then my family, as the story goes, escaped on the last boat away from Tallinn, and my family spent 5 years in Germany, in various DP, displaced persons camps there. And then when I was 7 years old, my family got permission to immigrate to Australia, and there for the next 15 years, I grew up there, went to university there, worked for 3 years for the Australian Defence Department playing war games, and then I never really liked Australia. It was a place where people talked about football and sports and drank a lot of beer, and all the interesting stuff was happening somewhere outside there in Europe or in America. And for me, the final straw came when a book that I really wanted to read, it was called The Group by Mary McCartney. And it was a best-selling book in America, but it was banned in Australia. Because it had some bad sexual content or something. And I thought, what kind of a crazy country do I live in where they ban books, you know, in what was it, 1960s. The other thing I didn't like about Australia was that there was a very powerful sort of not an anti-immigrant feeling, but there was a kind of a white Australia policy feeling, the feeling that okay, we are the people who live in Australia, and you guys from Greece and Estonia and some other places, you know, you're lucky to be here, and you should learn how to speak English very quickly and be nice. And that also didn't quite sit right with me. Anyway, I was really keen to leave, and I hopped on a boat, and I was on my way to Europe. I wanted to go there and back to Europe and find my roots and see what's going on. And the boat stopped off in Yokohama, and I got off the boat. I had 3 days to spend in Japan before getting back on the boat. And when the 3 days was up, I didn't want to go back on the boat. I had fallen in love with Japan, and then a whole new fork in my life came where I spent the next 5 years in Japan. I started my own company there, a market research company. Started making huge amounts of money. It was so easy to make money there in the 1960s. Yeah, so for the next 5 years I made a lot of money and became like a businessman and really loved the Japanese culture. There was something about Japanese culture that absolutely, it was in so many ways so opposite from Western culture. Everything was opposite. The doorknobs opened the other way, and everything was different, and somehow the culture and the women were different, and the night scene in Tokyo was for a young man like me at the time, it was paradise, you know, to be going out every night with these advertising boys and doing the town. Anyway. So that's, I don't know, maybe I'm going on too long about my personal life, but then after 5 years I got thoroughly sick of the advertising industry, and those guys started to really get on my nerves because they were totally apolitical. They you know, I said to them, well, why are you doing these ads for these tobacco companies? Don't you know that tobacco kills? And they said, Kalle, don't worry, this is not your problem. You know, it's the client's problem. You just come up with a really good ad and make a lot of money and you'll be happy. And in the end I just had enough of that, and I took my money and traveled around the world for 3 years. And then when
also same time documentary filmmaker.
That came later. It's a long story. I guess I'm giving you 50 years of my life here. Anyway, I traveled for 3 years and decided in the 3 years, and I traveled mostly in the poor countries. I was in Central America and in Mexico and in India and Afghanistan, and I took the Istanbul Express all the way from Istanbul all the way through to New Delhi, and I mean all the way through to India. Yeah, and I decided what shall I do with my life, and I wanted to become a documentary filmmaker, and I did that for 17 years. after I got married to my girlfriend Masako in Japan, and I decided to immigrate to Canada and become a documentary filmmaker, and then I did that for 17 years. We talked about that earlier. I got tired of it because I wasn't having any impact on the world. I was putting all my love and passion and energy into making these 1-hour mind bombs, and they just didn't amount to very much. And then just at the time when I was getting really tired of making 1-hour documentaries, then this opportunity came up with Adbusters, and this fight that we had with the forest industry here, and starting to make these 30-second documentaries, these 30-second mind bombs instead of 1-hour mind bombs, and yeah, that was the beginning of Adbusters and everything else I've done since. So that's what was it? 5-minute history of my life.